To get started with Archipack, we first need to enable the add-on. Press F4 and open the File Context menu, and from here open Preferences. On the left side, click and open the Add-ons tab. I find typing up top can be the fastest way to find what you're looking for. The Archipack add-on appears and we can enable it with this checkmark. Expanded, and here you can see the location of the add-on. This can be found on the sidebar in the Create tab. You will find further information by clicking Documentation. The add-on has two setup actions. The first is to add a material library. This is a blend file that can be downloaded from the Archipack website. The second action are to render the preset thumbnails. These thumbnails are previews of the objects available to create with the add-on. We first need the material library, so these thumbnails render with material. So let's get the library by clicking Documentation. This has opened the browser off screen and I can drag that in here and expand it. On the right side of the screen here, I can click Setup. This opens a page with a link to the material library below here. Click Download Default Material Library. I can save this and it will download to my Downloads folder. Once downloaded, I can move this to a permanent location. Anytime Blender adds an Archipack object, it will reference this file for materials. You can bypass this step as the default materials are basic. Each object gets created with material slots that allow you to quickly add your own custom material to them. Let's jump back into Blender and add the location of that material library. Back in the add-on, we can click this folder icon here. This opens a file explorer and you can navigate to where you saved the material library file. I have saved this in this folder. Now click Accept and get back to Preferences. More custom settings are available below here to adjust the properties listed. The final step is to render the preset thumbnails. This will take a few minutes and I can speed this section up. The system console opens and the add-on will begin rendering thumbnails for each of the objects. This is to help keep the Blender application small when shipped. I find dragging the slider down one way to tell the rendering is complete. The thumbnails are saved in the add-on folder and you don't need to do any more. It is recommended to restart Blender once complete. This looks like it's complete now. I can close Preferences. Now come to File and New and reload Startup File. Now to view the add-on, press N and open the sidebar, and it will be here in the Create tab. Expand it in here to view the available parametric objects available. If I click the roof, for example, the thumbnails have rendered with a material. If I click the door, however, they are still white, but I can see the style clearly. Press the Escape key to exit. In the scene, I can press A to select everything, then X and delete these three objects. Right now the cursor is at World 0. If not, press Shift plus S and put the cursor to World Origin. Let's start with a wall object. This gets added at the location of the 3D cursor with the manipulator handles to adjust the size and number of walls. A second tab also gets created here called Archipack. Here you can input values and increase the wall count to 2. The first part can be controlled below in the part section. Here I can input 10 into the length. The default is straight and the second option is for a curved wall. Let's leave it set to straight. If we increase the number of parts to 2, we can use the manipulator in the scene to adjust the length. Click and drag to modify this value. This can cause the gizmo to disappear and we can switch this back on. Now in part 2, I can increase the length to 10. This arrow here with 2 beside it is the number of walls. Clicking this will increase that number. Then either adjust the length here or update it in part 3. I can increase this to 10 also. To finish the wall, click Close up top here. Let's come back to the Create tab. Once you have a wall created, the slab option becomes available and we can add one in. This takes up the width and depth of the wall and the thickness can be adjusted in the Archipack tab here. Auto sync keeps the slab locked to the dimensions of the wall. Adjusting the wall sizes will also adjust the slab. Expanding the parts setting allows for more customization of the slab. You can split each side of the slab down further, add a balcony, or remove that side. I find this to be a little buggy in this version of Blender. Let's come back to the Create tab and we can add a window. Let's go with the 180 by 210 flat. This also gets added at the position of the 3D cursor. If we press numpad 1 and come into a front view, we can press Z and switch to wireframe shading. In the Item tab, we can input -5000 and center this up. Now let's open back up the Archipack tab. Increase the width to 9 and increase the panels to 4. Here you can adjust the column offset or add a light portal. This portal directs light from light sources in through the window and will improve interior lighting. In the component drop-down, you can adjust the frame, handle, base, tablet, and add a blind. Press Z and switch to solid shading. Clearly the blind should be on the inside, so I can press R, Z, input 180 and enter. We can also move this back inside the wall. Press numpad 3 for a side view and switch back to wireframe shading. Press G and drag this back along the Y-axis and center it up on the wall. The window comprises multiple objects such as panels, blind and handle. All these are parented to the window as we can see in the Object Properties tab and in Relations. Let's switch back to solid shading. The next thing will be to cut a hole in the wall so the window will be visible. Select the wall and open the Create tab. Here we can click Boolean. This will subtract the difference between the window and the wall. If we come to the Modifiers tab here, a Boolean modifier has been added to the wall and this object here is used as a cutter. That is this wireframe object here. It forms part of the window unit and is unselectable. Let's come to the Create tab and add a door. Here I can choose 80 by 200. If we open the Archipack tab, the properties for that door are available to edit. Here you can adjust the dimensions, change the direction the door rotates, whether it has a handle, and the door panel style and settings. Let's rotate this 90 in the Z axis. Now press G, Shift Z to exclude the Z axis and move that over and into the wall here. Position that center now. Select the wall and in the Create tab, click Boolean to create an opening for that door. Let's come back to the Archipack tab. Here we can increase the height to 6 meters and make room for a second story. You can also adjust the walls and prepare for a roof. If we expand part 1 of the wall, we can increase the number of splits to 3. This will allow us create an apex to fit a roof. I can zero out position 2. In the second altitude field, I can input 2.46, tab into position 2 and input 0.5, tab into position 3 and input 0.84. The split position and altitude can be positioned to form the slope you want for the roof. Let's minimize part 2 and expand part 3. Increase the splits to 3 first. Now we can input the same values here to match the opposite gable wall. Zero out position 2. In the second altitude field, input 2.46. Tab into position 2 and input 0.5. Tab into position 3 and input 0.84. With that complete, let's add a roof. On the Create tab, click Roof. Now choose one from here. Let's add this one in here. That gets added and will need to be resized, so switch to this tab. I know the dimensions for this roof, so I can click into the altitude and input 8.63. The left and right slope will be 0.5. Tab into the left width and input 5.3 and match that on the right side. Expand the parts now and increase the length to 10.5. We do need to position this in the scene, so switch into a front view. Open the Item tab and in the X location, adjust this value and drag the roof down a little. Press numpad 3 and we can drag this back along the y-axis and center it up on the walls. The roof has many more properties from the covering, hips, gutters, fascia and barge board. These allow for a multitude of different styles to be created. Back on the Create tab, there are more objects available such as a fence. I can add this style. The part then allows you to extend the length of that fence. Rotate if necessary, then modify each component. I can rotate this 90 and now just move it away over to the side and position that here. Now that we have a double height wall, let's add another window. This window here can be saved as a preset and added again. Here we can click the plus and in the name field I can call this large window and press enter and click OK. In the background the thumbnail will get created for this new object. Now back in the Create tab, if we click window, that preset large window is available here to select. In the snap menu, change to vertex so we can snap and align with the first window. In the scene, press GX, press and hold Ctrl to activate snap and snap this across. Press G, Z and position for the second floor. Left click and place that there. Now select the wall and on the add-on, click the boolean to create a subtraction. One wall object we didn't look at and this was the draw option here. Click and select the first point, then the second. This will create a wall. Very useful method for adding walls. I can select just the wall and delete this. Also this object here and delete that. Next we have this truss object. I can increase this in length. This has many presets to choose from in the Archipack tab. I can rotate this 90 on the y-axis. Now increase the height to 9.8. Press G, Z and move this up here. Let's come back and add a stairs. I can choose this one here. Press G, Shift, Z to maintain its position on the Z axis and move this inside the building. If you wanted to preview this building in VR, you could export to Twinmotion and start walking around very quickly. There are a couple of things we need to do first. In the outliner, I can hide the visibility of the lights as we won't be exporting these. Also, let's come up to the Scene tab and expand units. When importing objects into Unreal or Twinmotion, we need to reduce the scale to 0.01 and match the centimeters used by those engines. That reduces everything in the scene down, so we first need to scale everything up. Let's switch to wireframe shading. Drag select all of these objects and press S, input 100 and enter. We can switch back to solid shading. We can see we have a clipping issue because of the changes in scene scale. In the View tab, let's increase the start clip to 3mm and the end clip to 1 km. That fixes the issue. We also need to apply that scale. So press Ctrl+A and apply scale. I can select this reference, press H and hide it. Now we can export all these objects. First, switch back to wireframe shading so we can make sure we are selecting everything. I can drag select all of these. Press F4 and from export, choose FBX. Navigate to a folder where you want to save this file. Put a check mark in selected objects, so only the selected objects will get exported. In geometry, we can set this to face smoothing. The rest of the defaults are fine. I can name this Arc House and click Export FBX. I can launch Twinmotion. This will take a moment to load. When it does, you start in the default scene. Click Import and now open. I can navigate to where I saved that Arc House FBX file. Click Open now and click OK. I can press the S key and just reverse back here and come around to the front of the house. One great thing about Twinmotion is the library of materials that's available. So if I click into glass, I can drag and drop that glass material onto the windows. Now one thing we notice is the house model is down in the ground. The reason for this is it is below the grid in Blender. So let's look at how we can make changes in Blender and update these here in Twinmotion. Let's open back up Blender. Press numpad 1 for front view. Press G, Z and drag this up and sit on the grid floor. With that in position, press Ctrl+A and apply all transforms. Press F4 and we can export the FBX again. Select the previous FBX we exported as we want to overwrite that exported file with the new changes in location. Click Selected Objects up top here. Also update the geometry setting. And now we can export FBX. Open back up Twinmotion. Come to the Import tab and just click this refresh icon that appears when you hover the cursor. That will re-import the model with the changes we made in Blender. I'm going to continue and add some more material to this model and I'll be back when it's complete. I've worked around and added material to more of these objects. This wall, however, is not quite right. The reason for that is this needs a UV map. In fact, any object you want to texture in Twinmotion will need a UV map. This one just needs to be updated. Let's open back up Blender and select this wall object. We can switch into the UV editing tab up top here. I can zoom out, open the view tab and just increase the clipping distance to 1 km. We can do a quick UV unwrap here. Select it all and press U and choose Smart UV Project. Increase the island margin to 0.02 and create space between the islands. Now we can click OK. In the UV editor, I can rotate these 90 to better orientate them to take a texture. Now move them back onto the grid and make sure they are within the bounds. Let's open back up the Layout tab. Drag select everything. Press F4 and from Export choose FBX. Navigate to where we had the original FBX file saved. Selected, so we are overwriting it. Enable selected objects and I can update the smoothing settings. Now export FBX. I can open back up Twinmotion. Now in the Import tab, re-import to update those settings. Use the picker to select that material and adjust the scale. This is a really cool tool to quickly preview different materials and looks for your projects without too much work. And now once you save the file, you can import the scene into Unreal Engine with the materials applied. This is still in beta stage but works really well. The add-on is available from the Unreal Marketplace and you'll find all the information there to install and get up and running. I can open Unreal. This is a scene I have from a course on Udemy and you can find out more by following the link in the description. To import the Twinmotion scene, come to Datasmith. Navigate to where I have that Twinmotion file saved. Here I can click Open. It asks where you want to save it and the content folder will be fine. Next it wants to know what to import. I can leave the defaults. It's really just geometry, material and textures, so I can click Import. That imports and throws the camera right out into space. In the outliner, I can select an object and in the scene press F to zoom into it. These are grouped in a folder, so by selecting that folder, you can rotate and move the whole model into position. This is a very fast way to work and get things up and running between Blender, Twinmotion and Unreal Engine without very much work, and that's where I can leave it.